It began with a flicker on long-range gravitational sensors orbiting Neptune, barely perceptible, like a ripple through the void. At first, scientists dismissed it as a rogue comet cluster, but within days, telescopic arrays across the Interplanetary Defense Coalition (IDC) confirmed it. An artificial formation, massive and organized, was entering the solar system from interstellar space. Humanity had been watching the stars for decades, but this wasn't a welcome visit or exploratory fleet. It was an invasion force. The IDC, formed from Earth's united military coalitions after the Moon Wars, immediately declared Aegis Protocol Zero, a preemptive mobilization plan for hostile contact. Humanity had prepared for this moment in theory, but in practice they were outgunned and outnumbered. The alien armada, later identified through intercepted signals as the Yvalkar Dominion, was unlike anything humanity had encountered. Dark, silent cruisers shaped like crescent blades moved in perfect formation, dozens of kilometers in length. Scans couldn't penetrate their hulls. Probes sent to intercept vanished without a trace. When the research outpost on Europa went dark, the world realized the threat was no longer abstract. It was personal. Earth's orbital command scrambled. A unified war council was called, consisting of high-ranking representatives from Earth, Luna, and the Martian colonies. Admiral Leora Vance, known for her ruthless effectiveness during the Jovian Piracy Rebellion, was given full military command of the IDC Navy. She didn't hesitate. Earth would not wait to be attacked. Humanity would strike first. Dr. Kalin, Reese, a renowned xenolinguist and AI strategist, was tasked with decoding the alien transmissions. Within hours, fragments were parsed through deep neural symbionts. The Yvalkar were not explorers. Their doctrine, embedded in recursive fractal language patterns, repeated a single grim truth. Conquest cleanses weakness. The strong inherit the stars. Back on Earth, panic surged among the population as the mainstream networks leaked footage of the incoming fleet. Protests and chaos erupted in some megacities, but the majority stood behind their governments. This was no longer about politics or borders. It was survival. Meanwhile, orbital shipyards above Mars and Luna worked around the clock, bringing dormant prototype warships online. Among them was the ICS Valiant, a stealth battleship equipped with newly developed singularity torpedoes. Mars activated its ancient planetary defense grid, first installed as a deterrent during the Martian independence crisis decades prior. Now those forgotten weapons would serve a higher purpose. As the alien fleet passed Saturn, it decelerated, reorganizing into a spearhead formation. The Yvalkar didn't know yet what humans were capable of, but they believed Earth would fall like the others. They didn't understand that humans had evolved in a world built on struggle and unpredictability. Earth was a death world, and its children carried that chaos into the stars. With the invaders approaching Mars orbit, humanity had only one option: make their stand early, make it brutal, and send a message so loud the galaxy would never forget it. Admiral Vance gave the order. We don't wait for them to knock, we blow the door off before they get close. The alien armada's steady approach triggered a frenzy of activity across humanity's interplanetary infrastructure. The Yvalkar fleet was cold and silent, emitting no traditional communication signals. But then, out of the void, humanity received something unexpected, a warning. It came via a deep space relay in the Kuiper Belt, an encrypted burst signal piggybacked on an ancient Earth probe, long believed lost. It originated from a distant star system nearly 300 light-years away, but the message had been sent using a form of quantum entanglement, a technology Earth had only recently begun to theorize. When decrypted by Dr. Kalin Reese and his AI, the ADO contents chilled even the most hardened Defense Council members. The signal came from a dying alien civilization called the Syraxa, reduced to only a few ships. The Yvalkar had raised their worlds in a single solar cycle. The message was direct. Do not let them land. There will be no terms, no mercy. They will destroy your oceans, your atmosphere, and your history. Destroy them before they reach your home. It wasn't the first contact Earth had hoped for, but it was the most important. The Syraxa included data fragments, blurry footage of glassed cities, dying forests, and fields of orbiting debris. It matched the trajectory of the Yvalkar fleet. Other intercepted messages from across the Orion Spur painted a clear picture. This enemy operated like a machine, rolling over resistance, using brutal logic to dominate weaker civilizations, and Earth, from their perspective, was untested prey. Humanity, however, was far from untested. On Mars, military leaders finalized deployment plans for the Red Aegis network, an array of kinetic orbital cannons hidden beneath the Martian crust. Their use had been outlawed in the Interplanetary Weapons Accords, but treaties meant nothing in the face of extinction. Captain Jurek Sol, commanding officer of Mars Orbital Defense, had one directive: make Mars the last thing the Yvalkar ever saw. Earth's population, still panicked, began to rally. Civilian industries retooled for war production. Orbital factories on Luna pumped out autopiloted defense drones by the hundreds. Even Earth's old rivals, once hostile during the formation of the IDC, now collaborated seamlessly, political divisions evaporating under existential threat. Humanity was learning to fight together like a single organism. As the Yvalkar Armada moved past Saturn, the fleet paused again, this time to deploy a planetary bombardment platform the size of a small moon. It glowed with shifting plasma, harvesting energy from the solar wind. From initial scans, it was clear. One blast from this weapon could devastate half of a planet's surface. Earth had no hope of surviving it if it reached range. Admiral Leora Vance reviewed the intelligence and convened her war council aboard the ICS Valiant. She pointed to Mars on the solar map. "We hold them here," she said. Mars becomes the wall between Earth and oblivion. The plan was clear: intercept the Yvalkar fleet before it reached Mars orbit, strike hard, and cripple their command structure. Humanity couldn't match their numbers, but it could outthink them. Every ship, every drone, and every weapon would be deployed in one decisive blow. The enemy believed humans were scattered and disorganized. They didn't realize they'd awakened a species born of war, tempered by chaos, and united in desperation. The countdown to the first strike had begun. The moment of reckoning had arrived. The Yvalkar fleet pierced through the asteroid belt in tight formation, dark and silent, like a cosmic knife sliding toward humanity's heart. Their ships, huge crescent-shaped dreadnoughts and escort, vessels with gravitic shielding, moved without hesitation. No signals, no attempts at communication, just relentless forward momentum. Earth's War Council knew the time for diplomacy had passed. Admiral Leora Vance stood aboard the ICS Valiant, watching the enemy through a three-dimensional holographic display. Her command fleet, composed of the most advanced warships humanity had ever constructed, lay hidden in the asteroid field, cloaked by radiation dampeners and smart chaff dispersal systems. Every ship was running cold, minimizing heat signatures to avoid detection. The plan was risky. Humanity couldn't win in a prolonged engagement. The enemy had superior numbers and power. But if they could strike first, hard and fast, maybe they could shatter the enemy formation, confuse their hierarchy, and buy enough time to trigger Mars's final defenses. The moment the first Yvalkar scout vessel crossed the trap threshold, Admiral Vance gave the order. "Operation Veilbreaker is go." The trap snapped shut in an instant. From the shadowed hollows of the asteroid belt, hundreds of autonomous kinetic kill vehicles, KKVs, launched. These weapons, solid tungsten rods, traveling at Mach 30, were invisible to most sensors and struck with the force of tactical nukes. 3 Yvalkar frigates were obliterated in seconds, rupturing into atomized metal and flash-frozen biological matter. Then came the EMP cluster bombs, bursting through the vacuum in blinding flashes, frying external systems and scrambling, enemy targeting AI. It wasn't about destroying the whole fleet. It was about disrupting their cohesion, forcing them to react to chaos. Humanity's home field advantage was psychological. Dr. Kaylin Reese monitored Yvalkar signal traffic from a secure lunar relay. For the first time, the enemy fleet broke formation. Their command protocols shifted erratically, perhaps a side effect of human electromagnetic attacks. Dr. Reese smiled grimly. They're not machines after all. They panicked too. The ICS Valiant and her escort ships uncloaked and charged. Railgun fire tore through the void in streaks of blue light. Singularity torpedoes, unstable gravity bombs, were unleashed toward the enemy's largest dreadnought. The torpedo detonated, briefly collapsing space into itself. The dreadnought folded inward, crushed like paper into nothingness. But humanity's opening salvo came at a cost. The Yvalkar adapted faster than expected. Their ships began shifting, spectral frequencies, bypassing human sensor jamming. Return fire lanced through space, sickly green beams that sliced clean through a Martian corvette. The ICS Tyrannus was vaporized in an instant. Then, the planetary bombardment platform began. Moving faster now, clearly recalibrating its targeting systems. It had identified Mars as its primary objective. Earth's gambit had worked. They had the Yvalkar's attention. Human casualties were mounting, but the trap had succeeded. Several enemy capital ships were down. Their formation was broken. Confusion rippled through the enemy fleet as humans pursued them with cold precision and zero fear. Captain Jurek Saul, commanding Mars' orbital defense grid, saw the enemy finally drift into range. He sent one line to Admiral Vance. "We're ready. Bring them to us." The battlefield was shifting to Mars and humanity had bloodied the lion. Now they were going to break its spine. The battered Yvalkar fleet pressed on, wounded but unrelenting. Despite losing several ships to the asteroid ambush, their flagship, the Oblivion Spire, remained intact and surged ahead, dragging the remainder of the Dominion Armada into Mars's orbit. They had no idea what awaited them there. Mars had never been Earth's jewel. It was harsh, red, and quiet, a land of dust and ambition. But over decades of conflict and fear of Earth's own internal instability, Mars had become a fortress, cloaked in secrecy. Beneath its crust lay the Red Aegis network, a defense grid forged from abandoned superweapons and outlawed technology that had been hidden away for one purpose: survival against the unimaginable. Captain Jurek Saul, now commander of Mars Defense, stood within Olympus Mons control, a nerve center buried deep under the planet's surface. Around him, AI tacticians and hardened veterans coordinated thousands of weapon systems, all camouflaged and dormant. Until now, as the Yvalkar fleet entered low orbit, human warships executed a tactical retreat, drawing enemy vessels directly over the Martian equator. Then, Jurek gave the command. Gauntlet online. Fire at will. The surface of Mars ignited. Camouflaged ports peeled open across the Martian crust, revealing railgun batteries, pulse laser towers, and long-range plasma dischargers. Hypersonic missile silos burst to life, launching hundreds of anti-ship warheads in seconds. From Olympus Mons itself, the Solar Lance, a classified particle cannon built into the mountain's hollowed-out caldera, fired a blinding beam into orbit, tearing a Yvalkar cruiser in half like it was paper. It was a kill box, a planetary-scale ambush, and it worked. Caught between the retreating human fleet and the raging Martian surface, the Dominion ships flailed. Their targeting systems, calibrated for starship combat, struggled to lock onto the spiderweb of planetary defenses. Several enemy vessels began panic descent maneuvers, only to be shredded mid-fall by kinetic flak fields. Admiral Vance watched from high orbit aboard the ICS Valiant, carefully coordinating the pressure. The idea wasn't just to destroy the enemy, but to force them to commit, to funnel them into overexposing their flagship and destroy it in one decisive blow. But the Yvalkar had their own surprise. The Oblivion Spire, the massive dreadnought, leading their fleet, activated an energy shield humanity had never encountered before. One that bent local gravity, absorbing kinetic impacts and redirecting laser fire. It plunged toward Mars's atmosphere, heading directly for the southern pole. Vance realized too late. They weren't trying to destroy Mars. They were trying to bury something. At the pole lay Cryo Depot Theta, a classified facility that held captured alien tech from pre-contact anomalies, artifacts humanity never understood but feared to destroy. The Yvalkar seemed to know exactly what was hidden there. Vance issued new orders. We intercept. That ship does not touch ground. She deployed her last trump card, the Chimera Protocol, an experimental stealth corvette piloted by an onboard AI designed for suicidal disruption. It wasn't meant to survive, but it could deliver a payload. As Chimera rocketed toward the spire, Dr. Kalen Reese made a stunning realization. The Yvalkar weren't just invaders, they were cleaners. Their purpose wasn't conquest, it was containment. They were trying to erase something from existence, something buried on Mars. The next few minutes would decide not just Earth's survival, but the future of the entire solar system. The Chimera screamed through the upper atmosphere of Mars like a blade of light, small, fast, and nearly undetectable. Its onboard AI, Theta-7, had one mission: breach the Oblivion Spire's shields and detonate a gravity-shear warhead in its reactor core. It was a suicide run, but one that could turn the tide of the war. As Chimera engaged evasive patterns, Earth's top scientific minds were racing to piece together the mystery behind Cryodepot Theta. Dr. Kalen Reese, combing through ancient sensor logs and fragmented deep-core transmissions, discovered something terrifying. The object buried beneath Mars' south pole wasn't alien in the traditional sense. It was pre-silicate, a construct older than planetary life as we understood it, older than Earth, older than stars. Labeled Object X1, it had been recovered, a decade earlier after a freak tectonic event unearthed it. No one had understood its purpose, but its quantum field emitted unpredictable bursts, causing systems to malfunction and even brief psychotic episodes in nearby personnel. Humanity locked it away out of fear. But the Yvalkar seemed to know exactly what it was. Reese ran Object X1's frequency patterns through the captured Syraxa warning signal. They matched. The truth clicked into place. The Yvalkar weren't just invaders. They were executioners for a galactic quarantine. The object was a cosmic cancer, a remnant of a force that once unmade galaxies. The Syraxa hadn't just warned of the Yvalkar, they'd warned of the thing the Yvalkar hunted, something Earth had unknowingly dug up. The Oblivion Spire knew it couldn't win a prolonged engagement against Mars's defenses, but if it could detonate Cryodepot Theta and destroy Object X1, it would complete its purpose, even if it meant its own annihilation. The problem? Humanity didn't understand what they were truly protecting. As the spire descended through the chaos of Martian flak fire, Chimera got within range. Theta-7 opened a micro-wormhole burst to breach the gravitational shield, a one-shot trick invented by Earth's top war physicists and deemed theoretically suicidal. It worked. The Chimera blinked into the shield, bypassing its curvature, and collided directly into the spire's armor. Inside, the warhead ignited, creating a gravity sinkhole that crushed the dreadnought in on itself. The Oblivion Spire folded into a singularity and vanished with a silent flash. But it wasn't over. Even in destruction, the spire had launched a final missile toward Cryodepot Theta, a projectile laced with antimatter, designed to erase the depot and everything within. Jurek Sol, watching from Olympus Mons control, diverted Solar Lance one last time, risking a power overload. With a blinding pulse, the particle cannon struck the missile mid-flight, detonating it harmlessly in the upper stratosphere. The depot and Object X1 remained intact. In orbit, Admiral Vance received the final casualty report. Over half the human fleet was lost. Mars was scorched in places, but the Yvalkar fleet was shattered, drifting in pieces. Humanity had held the line, but Reese's report left them shaken. Earth had survived not just an invasion, but a containment breach. The object's containment needed reinforcement, not study. As Martian crews began emergency lockdown of Cryodepot Theta, one fact remained: humanity wasn't alone, and they had just declared themselves capable of surviving the unthinkable. Silence fell over the solar system like a final breath after a scream. The shattered remnants of the Yvalkar fleet drifted in orbit around Mars, charred wreckage tumbling against the cold of space. The battle was over. The invaders were dead or fleeing, and their flagship, the Oblivion Spire had been torn from reality itself by Chimera's sacrifice, but the cost was staggering. Nearly half of Earth's orbital fleet was gone. Mars bore new scars, craters that glowed with residual energy, cities shaken by concussive shockwaves. Yet for all the loss, there was no despair, only grim triumph. Humanity had survived. And they had done the unthinkable. They had won. Admiral Vance stood on the bridge of the ICS Valiant, her uniform singed and eyes hollow from exhaustion. Around her, the surviving commanders gathered virtually from across the system. Dr. Kalen Reese, patched in from Lunar Command, brought urgent news. The encrypted signal emitted by Object X1, the anomaly buried under Mars's southern ice cap, had changed. Before it was chaotic. Now it pulsed with regularity. A message. Not in words, but in structure, like a lock preparing to open. Whatever it is, Reese warned, we woke it up, or the Yvalkar did. Either way, it's listening. Humanity had survived a galactic purge, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. They now knew the truth. A hidden Cold War had played out across the stars for eons. The Yvalkar weren't conquerors. They were janitors of the galaxy, erasing traces of apocalyptic technology to keep civilizations like Earth safe from ancient horrors. But Earth wasn't safe anymore. It had drawn blood from the galaxy's cleaners, and that sent a new kind of message. Within 48 hours, long-range telescopes detected the impossible, a shift in deep space, hundreds of light-years away. A structure, immense, silent, and utterly alien, briefly flickered into visibility, some kind of watchtower or dormant gate now blinking to life. The message had been received. Earth's governments unified in a way not seen in centuries. The Solar Accord was signed between Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. Defense budgets became system-wide initiatives. A new agency was born, the Exo-Warden Initiative, tasked with one goal, to understand and, if necessary, contain what lay beneath Mars before anything else came looking for it. Humanity did not run. They did not cower. Instead, they began building. Fleet construction yards on Phobos tripled in size. AI-enhanced orbital defense arrays were deployed around Earth and Luna. Martian engineers began expanding Olympus Mons control into a permanent command citadel. But the most symbolic act came from Admiral Vance herself. Using a reconstructed fragment of the Yvalkar dreadnought, she ordered a beacon built and launched toward deep space. It carried one signal on all frequencies encoded in hundreds of galactic languages, a warning and a declaration. To those who listen in the dark, we are humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We are here now. If you come to erase us, prepare to be erased. It wasn't bravado, it was a fact. They came to conquer Earth. They didn't even survive Mars. And now, the galaxy knew exactly who humanity was.